Translation is described as change or conversion to another form, appearance, etc. It is something so seemingly simple, yet vague in its nature. How are we to comprehend such a broad term? Ask the modern designer. Through the standard processes of such a field, designers find themselves taking the abstract and giving it form. Being a designer boils down to extracting an idea from the client's psyche and converting it into a physicality of some sort. But how? The designer is expected to perform these tasks with no existing guidelines. Without some kind of structure, consistency seems unlikely. This is the conflict of being a translator for a language that does not exist in concretion, only subjectivity. In order to translate A to B, we must first identify A. For comparison, imagine my objective is to translate the English word shoe into Spanish. I am first obligated to define the word. Subsequently, I must clarify my objective, B. The Spanish word for shoe is zapato. I was able to arrive at this conclusion as there is a set of rules in each language which allows me to deduce which term equates to its respective in the alternate language. While this is consistent with spoken and written language, it is not so finite in visual terms. Numerous factors must be accounted for, and each decision must be intentional from every angle. What is a shoe in the realm of visual communication? It is not only a covering for the foot, but a beacon of sport, stability, fashion, and so on. But why is this an issue? With lack of bounds and certainty comes hazard. Creativity and experimentation are no strangers to the designer, nor is risk. Despite these commonplace elements of the profession, there remains a fine line between innovation and indecipherability. When the designer is given little to no margins, they are bound to desire a venture into trial. The potential routes often become paralyzingly overwhelming, and the designer becomes frozen in a state of uncertainty. Who's to say whether my design is too unorthodox and illegible, or debilitatingly monotonous? Insufficient restraint is not the lush, saturated biome that it lets on. Too many choices leads to no choices. The seemingly apparent resolution to such a dilemma would be a fashion of guides, potentially a director or superior. Given that the world will not cater to each grievance one has that makes their job harder, the remedy is self-discipline. External figures are not responsible for your woes as a designer or your inability to commit to sensible ideas. It is the responsibility of the designer themselves to derive a mental set of limits and tests. The design is not for you, it is for the target demographic. Designers cannot be so caught up in their own pride of work that they sit in distress over a decision they cannot make or a piece they are unsure can be deciphered. We cannot allow the facade of total creative freedom to hinder us from effectiveness, nor can we permit our own lack of self-control to inhibit the functionality of our work. In reference to Beatrice Ward's 1955 The Crystal Goblet or Print Should Be Invisible, just as a stained glass window might make us swoon in its aesthetic beauty, the opacity and decorativeness eventually reaches a level that provokes it to fail as a window. Be good before you become original.